there is a lot of more moving pieces that is happening with this Shedeur versus Deshaun Watson story that is going on behind the scenes involving not anyone from the coaching staff. No, it boils back to the ownership.
First things first, we got to talk about the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation. Mary Kay Cabot, friend of the show, said, with my breaking news here, that Deshaun Watson has taken the lead over Shedeur Sanders in the Browns QB competition and has an inside track to win it. I think they should declare him QB1 as soon as possible and let the first team offense start to cook. There is no time to waste.
The Cleveland Browns quarterback situation has turned into one of the messiest stories in the NFL right now, and this latest leak just made it even more interesting, because if what is being said is true, then this is no longer just a simple battle between Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. This is bigger than the coaching staff, bigger than reps in practice, bigger than the usual who looked better today offseason chatter. This is starting to look like an ownership-driven decision, and that changes everything. That is the part Browns fans are really locking in on now. Not just who gets the start, but who is actually pulling the strings behind the curtain. And that is why the story has so much weight, because in most NFL organizations, the head coach and the football staff are the ones making the football decisions. That is how it is supposed to work. The coach evaluates the quarterbacks, the coach sees the reps, the coach decides who is ready, and the front office supports the process. Simple enough, normal enough. Football people making football decisions.
I'm not surprised. This is what should happen given how much money Deshaun Watson is making. This is what should happen given, albeit a long time ago, the success that Deshaun Watson has had in the NFL. This is what should happen given that Shedeur Sanders was drafted in the 5th round and Shedeur Sanders had a good, not great season given a 5th round pick in the Cleveland Browns last year. This is what should happen. Why I'm in agreement with Mary Kay Cabot, start Deshaun Watson and I guess go ahead and commit to it, is do not try to appease people and undermine the roster by doing.
But in Cleveland, that does not seem to be the full picture. According to the source, the real power still sits with Jimmy Haslam, and that is what makes this whole situation so much more complicated. Because if the owner is the one shaping the quarterback decision, then the entire conversation around Shedeur Sanders changes immediately. It is no longer just about who can run the offense best. It becomes about organizational control, money, image, pressure, and whether the Browns are truly letting Todd Monken run his team, or whether the owner is still hovering over the whole operation like a shadow. That is a huge deal, and honestly, it is not the first time people have suspected that Cleveland's quarterback decisions were being influenced from the top. The source makes it sound like reporters around the team are leaking more than they should, and that those leaks are pointing back to the Haslam side of the building instead of the coaching side. That matters, because it means some of the reporting fans hear about reps, depth charts, and competition might not be coming from the football staff at all. It may be coming from the people who write the checks. That is where the Mary Kay Cabot connection becomes important. The source suggests that she has a very close relationship with the Haslams, and that some of her reporting appears to reflect ownership thinking more than actual coaching staff decisions. Whether fans love that idea or hate it, it explains a lot of the frustration surrounding how the Browns quarterback battle has been covered. If the reporting is being shaped by ownership influence, then the conversation is already distorted before it even reaches the public. And that distortion is part of the reason Browns fans are so fed up. Because if you're trying to figure out where Shedeur Sanders stands, or whether Deshaun Watson is really in the lead, you want to hear it from the people actually coaching the team. You don't want the story filtered through ownership politics, personal agendas, or media relations. You want the truth. You want the actual competition. You want the quarterback room to be evaluated on football, not on who is making the loudest back-channel noise. That is why Tony Grossi's comments matter so much in the source. He basically confirms what a lot of fans have been thinking for a while. The reps are not being treated equally, Monken is not handing out balanced opportunities, and at some point, a real depth chart is going to start shaping up. That alone is enough to make people lean in, because if the quarterback competition is not being handled evenly, then the eventual decision is already being shaped behind the scenes. That is what fans don't like, not because competition has to be perfectly equal at every stage, but because they want to feel like the best player is actually winning the job, not just the player the organization is most comfortable with. And that is exactly where Jimmy Haslam's role becomes the center of the whole debate. The source paints Haslam like the kind of owner who wants a hand in everything, not just the big picture decisions, but the actual football football identity of the team. The comparison to Jerry Jones is not random. It's meant to show that Haslam wants to be more than a silent owner. He wants to be involved. He wants to have a say. He wants to feel like the final football authority in the building. And if that is true, then the Browns are not just dealing with a quarterback battle. They're dealing with an ownership structure that may never fully let football people operate without interference. That is a serious problem for a coach like Todd Monken, because Monken needs room to coach. He needs room to evaluate. He needs room to build an offense and decide what kind of quarterback actually fits what he wants to run. If ownership is pushing a certain direction, then Monken is not just balancing player development and performance, he's also balancing the political reality of the organization. That is a very different job than the one fans think he has. And that brings us to the most important question in all of this. What does this mean for Shedeur Sanders?
The Haslams are making these so-called decisions as if when we gonna see Shedeur, as if when we gonna see Deshaun Watson. Now, in any other football organization, we're supposed to be hearing this stuff come from the coaching staff. Every other damn team let their coaches make the decisions. Oh, my. Not in Cleveland. Even Jerry Jones had to take a seat down there in Dallas.
It means he is not just competing against Deshaun Watson, he's competing against the entire structure around Deshaun Watson. That is the part people keep missing. If Deshaun is being given the benefit of the doubt because of contract size, ownership investments, or legacy expectations, then Shedeur is fighting uphill in more ways than one. He's not just trying to beat a player, he's trying to beat the sunk cost attached to that player. He's trying to overcome the reality that some people in the building may still want the Watson era to work, because admitting otherwise would be too embarrassing. That's a brutal place for a rookie or young quarterback to be in, but it's also why this story is so fascinating, because if Shedeur Sanders can still earn the job in a situation like this, then it says something real about his talent, his poise, and his ability to win over the building. It means he didn't just beat out a player, he beat out the politics around the player. That is a much bigger accomplishment. The source also gives us some clues about how the reps are being handled. At the first voluntary minicamp, Shedeur reportedly took the very first rep for the number 1 team. That's important, because first reps always get attention. They don't guarantee anything, but they do tell you who the staff is looking at first. Then, over the course of that same practice, Watson apparently got more reps with the ones. So what does that mean? It means the Browns are still sorting it out. It means the depth chart is not locked yet, and it means the competition is probably going to stay messy for a while longer. That is exactly why the upcoming OTAs are so important. According to the source, those open OTA practices will be another benchmark. Fans, media, and insiders will all be looking for who gets the first reps, who gets the most reps, and who looks more comfortable once the reps start stacking up. But even then, it's still early. The real answer may not show itself until mandatory minicamp, when things become more structured and the team starts behaving like a real football operation instead of just an off-season evaluation group. That is the stage where Monken is expected to show his hand more clearly, and if the source is right, he already has one. He is not interested in equal reps just for the sake of appearances. He wants to know who is ahead. He wants the quarterback room to reveal itself. That's a coach's mindset, not a fan's mindset, not a media mindset. A coach wants clarity. He wants to know who the leader is, who the backup is, and who needs to keep developing before he can be trusted. That is why the ownership issue is so important. If Haslam is leaning on the process too much, then Monken's job becomes harder. If Monken is allowed to run the room freely, then the competition becomes more believable. The problem in Cleveland, according to the source, is that nobody is fully convinced the coaching staff is operating completely independently. That suspicion alone is enough to create tension, and once tension exists, every report starts to feel loaded. Now let's talk about the schedule piece, because that was another interesting part of the source, and it connects to the quarterback battle in a bigger way. The Browns reportedly have one of the easier schedules in the league next season. That matters, because if the Browns really do have a favorable path, then the quarterback decision becomes even more important. An easier schedule can give a young quarterback breathing room. It can give a team time to find a rhythm. It can help a quarterback grow into the role instead of being thrown into the deep end against a brutal slate of games. That means if Shedeur Sanders wins the job, the path is there for him to succeed. It also means if Deshaun Watson gets the nod, there is less room for excuses. Either way, the schedule creates an opportunity for the Browns to actually look competent, and that is something the franchise desperately needs after so many years of being stuck in the same cycle of uncertainty.
Well, I'm here to tell you, Jimmy Haslam wanna be Jerry Jones 2.0? He wanna rub his hands together like Birdman. He want to say, listen here, this is my damn football team, and I'm going to pick who the quarterback's going to be, the kicker going to be, who the corner's going to be. This is my damn football team. I write the checks. That's how Jimmy Haslam is, bro. I'm telling you, I'm convinced, bro. before I started covering the Cleveland Browns, I had no idea who the hell Jimmy Haslam was. I ain't gonna lie to you.
The source also suggests that the Browns' schedule is not just easy by accident. It is easier because of the division rotation and because they are drawing some weaker opponents from both the AFC South and the NFC South. That can absolutely help. But as the source points out, the schedule is only part of the story. The Browns also improved their own roster. The offense looks different. The line has been upgraded. The team has added more pieces. So this is not just a case of hoping weaker opponents save the day. It is about the Browns trying to become better. At the same time, the schedule becomes more manageable. That combination could make the quarterback competition even more revealing, because if the offense is improved, then whoever starts at quarterback should have a better chance to show what he really is. That is why this matters so much for Shedeur. If the line protects better, if the receivers create more explosive chances, and if the offense becomes more functional, then his performance can actually be judged on merit. He will not be able to hide behind chaos. He will also not be buried by it. That is what makes the owner versus coach angle even more interesting. If Haslam is indeed the one making or heavily influencing the final decision, then the Browns are not just trying to find the best quarterback for this offense. They're also trying to satisfy ownership expectations, media narratives, and a fan base that has seen too many bad decisions already. That is a lot of pressure for one team, and this is why fans keep circling back to the same theme. Who really runs the Browns? Because if it is Monken, then the quarterback decision should be based on football. If it is Haslam, then all bets are off. That is why people keep comparing him to Jerry Jones, not because every owner is identical, but because some owners want to be more hands-on than others, and when they are, the football operation can become messy very quickly. That mess is already showing up in the reporting. The source makes it sound like certain reporters are operating almost like messengers from the top of the organization. That is one reason fans are so skeptical of the coverage. If the information is coming from the owner's side, then it may not be an objective look at the quarterback room. It may be part of a larger effort to shape the public conversation. And once people believe that, every headline starts to feel like part of a chess game. That is not a healthy environment for a quarterback battle, especially not when one of the quarterbacks is a young player trying to prove he belongs. Shedeur Sanders already carries a lot of attention because of his name, his personality, and the way people talk about him. The last thing he needs is a media environment that makes it harder to separate fact from spin. If he is going to win the job, it needs to happen because he showed it on the field, not because the narrative was finally forced into his favor. And if Deshaun Watson wins it, the same rules should apply. Football should decide, not ownership favoritism, not media leaks, not back-channel messaging. Football, that is the thing fans should be watching. Not just the leaks, not just the reports, not just the ownership drama. Watch the reps. Watch who gets the first team looks. Watch how Monken talks about the competition. Watch how the offense responds once OTAs and minicamps start to take shape. That will tell us a lot more than the noise. Because if the source is right, the real battle is not just on the field. It's in the building, in the hierarchy, and in the question of who actually controls the future of the Browns. And that future may come down to one choice, the coach's choice or the owner's choice. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe for more Browns updates, Shedeur Sanders coverage, and NFL drama just like this, and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this quarterback decision is only getting bigger from here.